Hello everyone, Ruby Ravel here. I have just returned from dancing and jousting with Oberon, Titania and Puck in the numinous Otherworld, and I thought I would pop in to deliver another edition of The Stars Unraveled. Today's focus is Venus conjunct Neptune, both as a transit and a placement. And I thought I would begin my exegesis upon this great theme by discussing John Keats and his poem La Belle Dame sans Merci. Keats had Sun and Venus conjunct Neptune, and so many of his poems revolve around a deep, heartfelt, turbulent, emotional yearning for the other world, for a world beyond this one, for a world of transcendental pleasures and raptures and euphoric delights that speak beyond the mundanity and the tedium of the everyday world. Because Venus is a manifestation of what we find beauty and what we find pleasure in, what gives us a sense of fulfillment and intimacy and soft delight when we come together with it. Whereas Neptune is the planet that rules the other world, the realm of dreams and visions, of things that are impossibly glorious and yet just somewhat beyond reach, things we can apprehend with our spirit and with our imagination, but which are very hard to actually physically embody in the flesh. And in the poem La Belle Dame sans Merci, it opens with this wonderful scene of this pensive knight sitting grieving beside a lake in this desolate wilderness that was once beautiful. And we ask the question, what ails thee, good knight? And the answer is that while he was dreaming there, one beautiful day, he encountered this wonderful fairy maiden and had a delicious love affair with her, in which he was transported to havens of delight that he never knew were even possible. And whilst reclining in her lap after what we can only assume through the poetic language was a wonderful bout of lovemaking, he has this nightmare in which he is in this underground fallen realm, and he sees the spirits of the departed dead and lost kings telling him that that fairy maiden was La Belle Dame sans Merci, the beautiful maiden without mercy. And he wakes and finds she has evanesced, she has disappeared, she has gone, she has escaped his clutches. And now he is left there in this barren wilderness, having tasted heaven, but filled with grief because he doesn't know if he will ever taste it again. Filled with grief because the pleasures of the world will forever pall in comparison with the delights of the other world. Now, I chose this poem in particular to expatiate upon my grand Neptunian theme because I think it really neatly encapsulates the different directions and highs and lows of experience that Neptune can pull us in a very short space of time, both the euphoria and the transcendental glory, but also the tragedy of loss, disappointment, and illusions deeply, deeply shattered. And you've got to remember that Neptune was the god of the ocean, and the ocean embodies so many moods and can change so quickly. Indeed, we refer to it as being a sea change when something just suddenly transforms with calamitous unforeseeability. One moment we can be resting on the beach and the sea can be this beautiful crystalline tapestry in which all potential wonders can lurk and which makes us feel like we're in a paradise. The next moment it is a colossal flood come to consume and devour us and pull us into complete egoistic extinction. So the positive, enjoyable, Floriate side of Venus conjunct Neptune is that it can help break down the boundaries that exist between self and other, and can allow love and affection to move between us and someone else without fear or without restraint. It enables a real generosity of love and heart that can reify itself as a really truly pure and selfless devotion that it is not easy to encapsulate on a day-to-day level. Whereas in Venus conjunct Saturn, we want relationships that have a definite structure in life where every person involved in the relationship has a definite role to which they are delegated. You are the man, I am the woman, I am the husband, you are the wife. Your roles are this within the relationship, my roles are that, and so long as everyone does what's expected of them, things will tickle along just fine. Um, with Venus conjunct Neptune, it's more about allowing emotions to fully be whatever they want to be at that given time, to allow themselves to take on whatever form they want to take. And as a result, during that conjunction, we can find ourselves able to see beauty in things that we might otherwise ignore. We can see the divine potential in every being. We can imagine all kinds of unusual different partnerships that we might ordinarily be close to. We can have that willingness to experiment and just really find the Godhead in another human being. And that can be rapturous and wonderful and can make us really feel like we are living inside some kind of glorious romantic dream. And because Neptune conjunct Venus makes us feel so compassionate and open-hearted and capable of healing other people with our devotion, I find that it's not unusual for relationships begun under this aspect to be ones that involve a lot of healing and caregiving, that people with this placement might innately find themselves attracted to people who need extra layers of dependence and support. Perhaps having relationships with people who have some kind of chronic long-term illness, whether mental or physical, who have some kind of disability or maybe addiction, or just who generally are kind of exiles from the world, who do not fit neatly within the ordinary boxes of functioning humanity. Or likewise, we might be that person who is suffering or exiled in some way, and we are seeking refuge and sanctity in the safety of someone else's love. Because, definitely when we feel we are in those rejected and wounded places that keep us isolated and outside of society, when society has rejected you as a whole and made you feel that you are invalidated, that you don't belong, that there is, because you don't fit in these neat saturnine roles, that you don't deserve love, um, it can be very easy then to believe that love is something that only comes from a divine source, that is something only embodied in gods and angels or in fictional characters. And indeed, some people with Venus conjunct Neptune may instead prefer to have a love that is entirely spiritualized, that is entirely devoted to gods and demons and otherworldly beings, or to fan fiction, because it is harder to be disappointed by these things than by a ordinary human connection, which can very easily be dirtied and despoiled by all the pettinesses and small annoyances that typify so much of the worst of the human condition. So when we feel ourselves to be in that fallen state in some way, to be one of these outlaws from society whom the status quo at large has deemed to be unlovable, when someone does deign to love us, to see the best in us, to see our beauty, to see our radiance, to say, I see your needs and your cravings and your yearnings, and I want to satisfy them, and you deserve to have them satisfied, it can feel like they have been sent to us by heaven as a saving grace, that some angel or god or goddess has suddenly tipped out of the other world solely to bring a bit more magic in to our lives. That's a wonderful experience, and some of my favorite moments in life have been typified by that experience. Some of my most beloved moments in art is when that moment has been captured with the most astonishing clarity. But the problem with that kind of magic, that kind of fairy glamour, is that it cannot last forever, because Neptune transits cannot last forever. And at some point, if we've been seeing someone as an angel, as a god, as a deity, eventually we're going to see the human being as well, the warts and all person, the person who gets who gets road rage, who gets cranky if their morning routine is interrupted, who can be nice one moment and then selfish and peevish over the smallest of delays. We all have to eventually encounter that person. And for some people, this Venus conjunct Neptune can actually represent that moment of disillusionment, when the spells and the magic that we have superimposed over someone we have adored begin to slip away, where there is some critical moment in the drama of your connection where you realize someone has not lived up to the vows or the magic expectations that we've had of them. And at that point, Neptune demands there is a changing of form. And this is the key difference between Neptune and Saturn. Saturn keeps hold of forms no matter what. It desires form and structure over personal feeling. So, for instance, when we get married to someone, I say this as though I've been married to someone I have not. We say our vows to one another, that for the duration of our marriage, we will do these things for one another, no matter what. And it's this social contract, this agreement that I will be loyal to you because I have agreed to be loyal to you. Even on those days when I don't feel like being loyal to you, even on those days when I hate you and I think you're the worst being ever created, I will carry on being loyal to you because on this sacred occasion, in this social contract, I said I would. Whereas for Neptune, that is not enough. While it is all for devotion and sacrifices and giving up big parts of itself in order to love someone, it still does this with the intention of nurturing a dream and a sacred ideal. And its job is to liquefy and dissolve forms so that if their rigid shape has become too dry and austere, we can then take on different forms instead. And for some people, that just means that Venus conjunct Neptune is actually a moment when a relationship dissolves, when it goes into free fall, where someone says, actually, I cannot hold on to the rigid shape and structure that our relationship is currently in, and something needs to change. Maybe it's just a case that the relationship needs to end, but perhaps there is a desire for more freedom, to be more of themselves than they feel we can be in a relationship, because very seldom are any of our relationships represented by a totally pure love for someone. Usually we love particular parts of someone and may dislike and hate the rest, and as a result, it can be very easy when we're in relationships to freeze another person into this specific image that we adore, like the icon of a saint, and to just censor and erase anything else that doesn't fit in with that icon, or even to actively punish our partners when they do not live up to this saintly icon we have projected upon them. But at some point, the other person, or this person might be you, depending on which side of the mirror you're on, might say, I'm fed up of just being this one form in a relationship. I have other parts of me. I have a whole infinite being within me that also wants to experiment and experience life and discover itself. And perhaps then that disappointment and crucial moment in the relationship can actually be when there is a needing to restructure things so that it actually fulfills the souls and spirits of the people involved in the relationship, rather than just keeping as it is for the sake of conservation and tradition. On a mundane level, if Venus conjunct Neptune could ever be said to have a mundane level, under this transit we often feel a bit more spaced out, a bit more daydreamy, a bit more inclined just to forget about the world out there and just to entirely do some deep sea diving in our inner depths. For some people, that can be very pleasant. It can be a period where they are really in contact with their imagination, where they see everything in so much more vivid colors, and they're able to express it in art, in music, in theater, in acting, and where they feel more alive because they are in touch with those enchanted fairy realms. For other people, it might be a time where their inner life, especially if it's been neglected or has been a sorrowful place, they instead feel more imprisoned within the great deluge of unwanted emotions they have within them, where they feel so waterlogged by their depth of feeling that they can no longer go about life with the kind of practical clarity that they usually associate themselves with. And there might be a greater desire to actually withdraw from life, to withdraw from people, and just as a means of trying to protect oneself when in the clutches of that deep, bizarre melancholia. And very often, if people haven't been living an emotionally fulfilled or honest life, then during Venus conjunct Neptune, it can be a moment where we have to pay our emotional debts. Because an emotion, if repressed, does not disappear. It just lurks into the sewers until there is a certain transit waiting to bring it to the surface. And those unacknowledged emotions often end up expressing themselves through illness if we are not giving them a voice in other ways, particularly migraines, hallucinations, depression, and all kinds of strange psychosomatic ailments. Fatigue and pneumonia are quite common under this transit. Anyway, I'm going to run out of space and struggle to upload this video if I make it any longer. I can't wait until I can get a camera and do longer videos for you all. I'm just waiting for a more auspicious transit in which to purchase things, because Mercury is currently transiting my 12th house, and I'm sure if I buy a camera, then it will break, or I'll drop it in down the toilet very very soon after purchasing it. Anyway, I thought I would finish off by fully reading through the John Keats poem La Belle Dame sans Merci that I referenced in the overture of this video. And I love you all, and please again share any of your Venus conjunct Neptune stories with me in the comments, and like, share and subscribe. Oh, what can ail thee, knight-at-arms, alone and palely loitering? The sedge has withered from the lake, and no birds sing. Oh, what can ail thee, knight-at-arms, so haggard and so woe-begone? The squirrel's granary is full, and the harvest's done. I see a lily on thy brow, with anguished moist and fever dew, and on thy cheeks a fading rose, fast withereth too. I met a lady in the meads, full beautiful, a fairy's child. Her hair was long, her foot was light, and her eyes were wild. I made a garland for her head, and bracelets too, and fragrant zone. She looked at me as she did love, and made sweet moan. I set her on my pacing steed, and nothing else saw all day long, for sidelong would she bend and sing a fairy's song. She found me roots of relish sweet, and honey wild, and manna dew, and sure in language strange she said, I love thee true. She took me to her elfin grot, and there she wept and sighed full sore, and there I shut her wild, wild eyes with kisses four. And there she lulled me asleep, and there I dreamed our woe betide, the latest dream I ever dreamed, on the cold hillside. I saw pale kings and princes too, pale warriors, death pale were they all. They cried, La belle dame sans merci, have thee in thrall. I saw their starved lips in the gloam, with horrid warning gaped wide, and I awoke and found me here on the cold hill's side. And this is why I sojourn here, alone and palely loitering, though the sedge is withered from the lake, and no birds sing.